For those who are regulars to the show, you would now be expecting me to talk for a minute or so to frame up the discussion that you're about to hear, so you can understand what you're getting yourself into. But this week I'm not going to do that. But this week I'm going to let my guest, Fiona De Stefanis, I'm going to let her story unfold in front of you for you to absorb. Hello and welcome back to WA Real. I'm your host, Bryn Edwards. Today my guest is Fiona De Stefanis. Fiona, welcome to the show.
Hello, Bryn. Thank you very much.
So, one of the questions I always ask my guests at the start is their relationship with Western Australia. Mm-hmm. So, you were born in Northern.
I was born in Northern, yes.
With Italian immigrant parents.
Yes.
Then moved to the Swan Valley.
Yes.
And then at the age of 13, went off to Tasmania.
Yes.
And then came back at the age of 19. Tell me, what was it like originally growing up in Western Australia? And then, did you miss it when you go to Tasmania? And then, why did you come back?
Yeah. So I grew up in a place called Swan View, and which is near Greenmount, near the hills there. And it was great. I loved it. We were, played with the neighbours' kids. It was that sort of community where you had your neighbours and you ran around, and lots of my school friends were close by. So I grew up playing lots of sports, very outdoorsy. Loved it. Loved where I lived. Loved all the community that we had around us. So yeah, I had a great childhood there, and I was absolutely devastated when we moved to Tasmania.
Why was that?
I think you're 13, and so you've got like your cliquey little girlfriends, and you're sort of going into those teenage years where it's like I had a boyfriend, and I'm starting to get into fashion, and really I was really into my school as well, and you had these close. It was like being ripped out of everything that you know and be dumped in the middle of nowhere. So Tasmania, where we moved to, was a place called Devonport. And hello, everyone in Devonport. But it's tiny. Like, it was like Summer Bay sort of thing.
Right.
Like, it was just this little village, little place. And I just couldn't believe it. I moved from somewhere where there were shops and malls and theatres and cinemas and stuff to absolutely a place where there was nothing.
Wow.
Like, they didn't have a McDonald's or anything.
What was the reason behind the move?
It was my dad, so I actually didn't speak to him for about 6 months after that. But I was like not happy with him. So my dad was like a land developer, and what he realised in Tasmania is that they just weren't developing their land, and it was a great opportunity, and he went over there and bought up a lot of land that was sort of on the river front, and he introduced house and land package deals, which they hadn't had over there before that. So he took us all over there because he had this great opportunity, and I sort of went over kicking and screaming, and I wasn't very happy. But after I lived there, now I look back, as you reflect back, and I'm glad we went. It was a very different lifestyle, and I learnt a lot and have some great friends from there now. But
was there always an intent to come back?
For me, absolutely. I would tell everyone that listened that it was like the minute I can get out of here, the minute I'm old enough to escape this island, I'm out, off the island. I'm out.
I'm specifically back to Western Australia, or
not initially. So I just sort of applied for I literally applied for every university that was outside of Tasmania.
Right.
And
what did you do at university?
Psychology, and sociology.
Right.
And I got I actually was accepted into a few universities, and then I thought, I'll go back home. I always called Perth home, even though I'd been away for 7 years. I was always like, I'm going to go back home, and so I came back to Perth for uni, and I loved it. But it's funny because when you live in Tasmania, you live on the island, and you call anyone else in Australia mainlanders.
Yeah. So
it was this real us and mainlanders, and so it was like I was going back to the mainland, and I couldn't be more excited. It was great.
Cool. Tell me about your career, because I know you're very proud of it.
I am, yes. It's an interesting career. It's very organic. I thought I was going to be a psychologist, so obviously I went to uni to do that.
Yeah.
And never actually did that.
So you went to read psychology at university because you wanted to be a psychologist?
I did.
That's cool, because I went to university, did psychology, had no idea what I was going to do with it.
Right, yeah. No, I just always saw myself as a doctor, like someone that was helping others, and just I always thought that's what I would do.
Where does the helping come from in your journey?
That's it. It's interesting. As a child, I was always sort of the one in the group that people tended to go to and sort of unloaded their issues and their problems, and I was always just known as a problem solver, as someone that could help with things. And I think I was just a really good listener.
Yeah.
And that was just something I always had through childhood, and I don't know where that comes from, like how that sort of came about, but I was just always that person that people sort of came to. And I had a lot of problems myself, so I don't know, maybe I was able to empathise because, you know, I had a bit of a turbulent childhood, so I was like, I think I could look at people and they could tell me something, I'd be like, really? No worries, like, you know, no judgment, I think, because I would always go, I've got more crap than that in my life, so you're doing okay, you know. So yeah, so I think that was it, and I just thought that was what I could continue doing in my life, was just problem solving other people's problems.
Indeed.
Not so much my own.
So into the career.
Yeah, and I ended up working in a call centre while I was at uni to sort of help with obviously paying for uni and getting my way through uni, and I just fell in love with it, which is weird. I know people think call centres are like hell. I actually loved it.
What was it you loved about
the energy, and every day was different and it was forever changing. So it was a telco that I worked for, and it was a startup. We didn't call them startups back then.
Yeah.
It was just the way it was.
Yeah.
And I started out in this burnt out warehouse in East Perth, and there was just a little handful of us, and we were all on the phones taking sales calls or customer service calls. Like even the CEO was taking calls, and
wow.
We would take orders of mobile phones over the phone, and we'd post the mobile phones out to them. And and I quickly became like a team leader and then a customer service manager. And as the company grew really quickly, like, you know, by the time I was sort of in a management role, I was only like 20.
Wow.
I was still really young, and, you know, the call centre was 100 people, 200 people, and it was just growing. And I loved it. I loved learning so much. Like, I had no idea what I was doing at the age of 20, managing people, like, hello. So it was just that constant learning and the constant buzz in a call centre. Call centres are noisy and busy and a bit chaotic, and I think I like chaos in all elements of my life. So call centre was a great starting point for me in my career.
Yeah.
And from there, I just continued in customer service and operations, and I ended up going overseas for a little while, working in call centres. But then I ended up in Sydney in my sort of mid-20s. I moved over to Sydney and was working in large insurance companies over there, doing call centre work, customer service work, and then I moved more into operations, you know, customer complaints and billing and that sort of thing. And I did that for quite a while. I sort of see my career as in two parts. The first part was very much that operational based, customer service based, sort of supporting lots of teams and building high performance teams. And then it came to a point where I met a person who was a consultant, and they were like, why don't you do more of this sort of work? So then I switched over and I became more of a consultant. Right. And helped other people build high performing teams and helped other people build strategies and operating models. And
so all the stuff you'd done before
in-house
to do.
I started helping other people do it. And that's where I ended up honing my career into being more of a specialist around strategy and operating models. So my real passion became, how do you create an environment where people can bring their whole selves to work?
Right.
That's what I'm really passionate about. So people can be creative and feel comfortable and safe and break the rules, and, you know, that old leave your personality at the door or leave your emotions at the door type of work environment. You know, I never really related to that. So it's like, how do you create environments where people can be their best selves? So that's what I became.
What are some
really
of the bigger
about.
projects you worked on?
One of the biggest ones I worked on was definitely with BHP. So BHP, I was a consultant in there, and we did a global technology strategy, and it was huge. You sort of look at it and you think, God, the budget on that was massive, and the reach of it was massive, and what we did was quite groundbreaking. So that was definitely one that I'm pretty proud of, and there was only a couple of us that did it together. We sort of just went in there and did it, and it was a great experience. So, and I've done a few of those since then, but so that's on a scale. But I think some of the other things I'm really proud of is I've done quite a few non-for-profits. Yes. And I've gone in and I've done strategy days just for free, gone in and I've sat with the team and helped them think about their non-for-profit as a business, because a lot of non-for-profits don't
very true
manage them as a business.
Yes.
So I think some of the proudest work I've done is actually working with non-for-profits and helping them visualize what their organizations can be and help them strategize. So.
Yeah, and I find in the non-for-profit you're working closer with the end customer.
Yes, and people are so passionate.
Yeah.
And so they're there for all the right reasons, but not necessarily do they have all the right skills or the knowledge to execute and bring it together. So I love
really make a difference.
Yes, that's what I love. I love that I can bring my skills in and help them with my time and stuff and see something really positive come out of it, see positive change come out of it, which you don't always necessarily see when you're working in a large corporate.
Very true. Yeah, I've worked been a former management consultant. I worked on a lot of really big projects. And you know, it's all very, very, very important. The budgets are huge and massive.
Yes.
Big
egos and
But do you actually meet the person who's like the consumer or this, that, and the other? Yeah.
And it's very difficult to feel the positive change. It's very difficult to go, I helped make that happen. I contributed to that. And I think one of the things that corporates are trying to do more and more is give everyone a line of sight to say, this is how you contribute to the organisation. But that's still very difficult to do when, you know, you're like 5,000 people deep and, you know.
It's more of a sort of mental journey than it is a feeling journey.
Yeah, it's very hard to be connected in those large organisations to, you know, the greater good. Or so I think, I do enjoy the smaller startups or the non-for-profits, definitely. I love that stuff. Yeah.
So you're in the middle of your career.
Yes.
Tell me what happened in October 2016.
Oh, 2015.
15.
Actually, yeah.
You texted me 16.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, no, it was 2015. It was just over 3 years ago. I collapsed at work and I thought I had the flu. Like, I had all these symptoms for a few months. I was a couple of weird symptoms. I was very itchy all the time.
Yeah.
So I thought...
What, like in your skin?
And I couldn't... I'd scratch and scratch so much I'd bleed, and I couldn't get to the itch. It was like so frustrating. So I changed all my washing powders and I threw out my sheets, and I thought I was allergic to powders or something. So I was like, oh, this is really annoying. And I was getting this thing called restless legs, but I didn't know it was restless legs at the time.
Yeah.
So restless legs is basically you lay down at night and your legs just keep moving. Like you can't actually control your legs. You can't get them to just stay in one place. And so I was like, oh, this is weird. So I cut out coffee and I stopped drinking alcohol, and I thought there was just I was just a bit anxious and stuff. So I was like, you know, saw that
high-flying world changing
you just exactly. And I had back pain and sore eyes and headaches and all these things, and I always thought there was a reason for it. Like you can explain stuff away, until one day at work, it was the most bizarrest feeling. I sat in this meeting and I'd worked with these people for years. I knew everyone. And I looked around the room and I couldn't remember anyone's names.
Ooh.
And it was just this moment of like, something's wrong. Like something's really wrong right now. So I got up and I went to the bathroom, and I remember just sort of leaning in the bathroom toilet going, I think I might need to go somewhere, and this isn't okay. And as
this is serious.
This is serious. And as I came out of the bathroom, I just hit the deck. I just fell and collapsed.
Whoa.
And within 24 hours I was diagnosed with kidney failure, and it was just from that point on my whole world changed. It just got turned upside down, and it's been a journey for me over the last 3 years since that. But I had no idea I was sick. And to be honest, I didn't even really know. I knew what your kidneys did, but I don't think I had any appreciation for how important your kidneys were to your overall health.
So tell me a bit more about the journey over the last couple of years from a medical point of view.
Yeah, so from a medical point of view, I was in hospital for 10 days to get that diagnosis. They do a lot of tests, so they actually have to go into your kidney with a kidney biopsy. So a large needle was injected into my back. And they take out parts of your kidney to actually look at your kidney and to decide, is it an acute kidney failure, which means can we treat it and give us some fluids, just add lots of water and a few drugs, and it might come back? Or is it completely gone? And after we did all these tests, which took about 10 days, we realised that both my kidneys were completely gone. I'd had an overall kidney function of about 8%.
Whoa.
So a normal adult around my age in their 40s would have probably about 80-90% kidney function. Like, it does wear and tear, you know, it's never going to be 100%.
Number of late nights out.
Yeah, and drinking and, you know, all that sort of fun stuff that you do. So mine was 8%. So anything under 15% is complete kidney failure. So I was in complete kidney failure, and I had surgery straight away. So they put a tube through my neck into my heart, and it was 2 prongs that came out, 2 tubes. And what it was so I could have dialysis.
Right.
So basically what that means is they hook me up to a machine for 4 hours at a time, 3 times a week. And that machine manually does what my kidneys used to do, which is clean my blood, filter my blood out of all the toxins, and takes the fluid off my body. So my body physically couldn't do that anymore. And if you let those toxins build up and the fluid build up, you'll die, obviously. So my toxin level, again, was extremely high. My toxins were up around 1,000 when I was diagnosed, and normally be about 80, 90.
Right.
So I was in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did a couple of rounds of dialysis, and because I was quite a small person and I wasn't carrying a lot of fluid, my doctor decided, do you know what, we're not going to put you on permanent dialysis, even though you're in complete kidney failure.
Right.
We're going to try you on some drug therapy and diet. So you're going to have to make some serious changes to your life.
Yeah.
And we're going to monitor you and see how you go.
Right.
So I actually lived for 2 years.
Right.
Through that without going on dialysis full time, which was very exciting for me, because as you can imagine, living on a machine is not fun. It's quite horrendous. It's very hard on your body. It's quite harsh.
Were you back at work during those 2 years?
So I did go back to work. It wasn't the same. I'll be honest, I'm quite a worker. Like, I loved working. Yeah. So I was, I'd easily put in 60, 70 hours a week without worrying about, I'd work weekends, I'd work late. Like, I loved it. And, I wasn't capable of doing that anymore. So I don't have a family, I don't have children. So work was everything to me. Yeah. And I wasn't able to carry on like that. I had to make some serious changes. Yeah. Yeah.
So this carries on for 2 years?
So 2 years I lived like that. I became a teetotaler. That was probably, I know it sounds weird, that was my biggest change. I had to stop drinking alcohol. And
was that hard?
It was. I loved socialising. I loved nothing more was better to me than having a glass of wine with friends and dinner, and I loved all that. So I actually just stopped. I literally sort of stopped going out at night time.
Right.
I just went, I can't do that anymore. I can't drink. So
and because I can't drink, that also equals I can't go out.
For me it was. That was the only way I could become a teetotaler. So I think for a good 6 months I just kind of shut myself off, and also I was exhausted all the time. So I had to make a conscious decision. What is my priorities in life now that I'm living with this health? Because like I said, my life completely got turned upside down. And I thought to myself, I need a purpose to get out of bed every morning. I don't have children, I don't have a family. So what is going to make me want to stay alive and get out of bed every day? And that was my job. Yeah. So I went, well, I will prioritise myself going to work 5 days a week. I'm still going to try and do that as much as I can. And on the weekends, I'll just sleep and recover. So I'm ready for the Monday to go again. Yeah. So that was what my life became. I became a Monday to Friday work, and I'd go to work and I'd give it my all. And by the end of the day, I would be so exhausted. I would just get home and I'd be in bed by 7 o'clock, sleep, passed out, absolutely exhausted. And I'd do that Monday to Friday. And then on the weekend, some weekends I wouldn't even get out of bed. I would just sleep and stay in my pajamas, and I would try and do one activity on the weekend, like catch up with one friend or do one brunch or one breakfast. But that's how I lived my life for 2 years.
Yeah, right.
Very different.
And then 2 years elapsed?
2 years elapsed and I collapsed at work again. Right. So it was like deja vu. Yeah. It's like I just bang, I hit the deck.
Same toilet?
No, different building this time. But same boss. I was actually really lucky. I'd had the same boss for 7 years. So he knew me as a healthy person. Well, as we thought I was healthy. And then he saw me obviously collapse and go through my illness, and he said to me, I'll support you through this no matter what. So I was very lucky to have him in my life, because he let me sort of be more flexible in my job and come and go as I please. And if I had to go do dialysis, or if I had to, go to the hospital or whatever, he was very good with me. So I was very lucky with that. So when I collapsed the second time, I was back in hospital, and this time I was at 2% kidney function. Wow. So I probably wouldn't have lasted another 48 hours or so. So I was pretty lucky. I got into hospital when I did. So that was straight into surgery. And the next day I was straight on dialysis, and it was permanent dialysis after that.
So permanent dialysis means?
Means that I have to have dialysis 3 times a week. So I would literally be hooked up to the dialysis machine, and it would filter my blood for 4 hours. By the time you sort of get there and get hooked up, it's like a 5-hour sort of experience. And the machine would do my kidney function for me 3 times a week. And if I didn't do it, then I wouldn't be here today. So it was very much a life support machine, and I lived like that for 8 months. And it took me 8 months or so to get on the wait list. So I had no one that could give me a kidney. So as you probably know, we can live as humans with 1 kidney. We don't need both. So if I had a donor, a family or friend, I could have obviously received a kidney from them, but I didn't have anyone. So I had to go on a waiting list, which is where people say that when they died, they're happy to donate their organs, which is an amazing gift. And I was lucky enough in July last year, July the 17th, I got the phone call on July the 16th to say, we have a kidney for you. See, I'll get emotional. And the next day I went and got my new kidney.
What was that like?
I still think even now, like, I get really emotional about it. It's something you can't explain to people, to say you're so sick and you just want to get better. And with chronic illness, it took me a long time to get my head around the fact that this is it for life. There is no getting better. Like, you can get treated, like dialysis is a form of treatment to keep you alive. And getting a kidney transplant is actually just another form of treatment.
Yeah.
So I still have kidney disease. It's just a lot better to have a new kidney than it is to live, without one or on dialysis. So I think it's just another form of treatment, but it's much better treatment, and you just can't wait to get that kidney. That's all you put your hopes on, is like, if I get this kidney, I'll be able to live life again, I'll feel so much better, or I can travel again and be free. It's about having freedom and choice back in your life.
Yeah.
So when you get that call, you're just like, oh my God, this is it. This is my second chance at life. And I hear a lot of organ transplant recipients say that, like, this is my second chance. And you're just so overwhelmed, and you don't sleep that night. I didn't sleep a wink. Like, no. I was just like, oh, what? Because you don't exactly know what's going to happen. Like, you don't know how you're going to feel after surgery, and recovery is obviously, it's not a little surgery. It's a huge surgery, obviously. So you never know how you're going to react. And so it was huge. And so I got the phone call. I was at work by myself, and I got the phone call, and the next morning I went in and had my surgery.
You were at work when you were sick.
I was at work. I'm by myself. It was like 5:30. Everyone else was gone. And I was like, who do I tell? There was no one to tell.
It's like bigger than the lottery.
It was crazy. I just quickly got on the phone and rang a few people, obviously. And it's like, oh my God, I'll get a kidney tomorrow. Like, so I don't think you have time to process it. You just bang, you're in, and away you go.
And then from there?
So then, you go in for your surgery, which is, it's a crazy morning. It's pretty full on. You sort of, your loved ones there with you, and all your doctors and nurses and everyone around, and you just, you go in and you wake up and you have a new kidney, and it's crazy. I think when you wake up, I was high as a kite. Like, I've got video recordings of me waking up, and I'm like, this is fantastic. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I feel great. Morphine obviously like on tap, and then the next day it's like an absolute truck has hit you. It is awful. And it was just the most excruciating, painful experience of my life. And you get out of bed that day, like, you're up.
They make you.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You get worked. Yeah,
you're out of bed, and I'm like, I'm not getting out of bed. There's no way I'm getting out of bed. But you're up and you're out of bed, and what I realised is the more you move around, the better it is straight away. But it's the recovery is tough. It's not a walk in the park. Some people say it is. Some people go, oh, look, I was running around the ward within 2 days. Okay.
Really?
Good on you. Like, pretty happy for those people. But yeah, no, I struggled. It was really tough for me. And I had a few complications which I had to sort of work through. And then it's getting used to taking all the medications and the side effects of the medications, and learning to actually pee again, like going to the toilet, because most people have renal failure, you stop going to the toilet.
You're right.
So all of a sudden you're like, got to go to the toilet all the time, and it might sound weird, but it's very sort of like, oh my god, I've got to go to the toilet.
What's
like
this again?
Yeah, it's really weird. So there's just lots of change again that you have to get used to. So it's surreal, just crazy experience. And I think so the physical side of it is huge, but then you have a very big mental and emotional side of it, and I think that hit me really hard too.
In what way?
You go through a lot of psych meetings before you have the transplant, because they want to make sure that you're capable of accepting a kidney and that you're, I guess, stable. And
you say accepting a kidney, what, on a very deep
level? Because I now have someone else's body part in me, and I find that a huge responsibility, a massive responsibility, to the point where I remember Christmas Day, I got really emotional because I thought there's a family out there that has got an empty chair and their loved one's gone, and I've got their kidney. And it just made my heart went out to them, and it broke my heart that I'm still alive because of them, and they're gone. And I think of that a lot, and to me it's a big responsibility that I need to do right by this person. I don't know who they are. They're a complete stranger. I have no idea about their background or their family or what they did in life. I don't know their name. All I know is that they're my hero. Like, I'm here because they decided to donate their organs and they saved my life, and I'll never be able to thank them or show them my gratitude, but they're with me every day.
Yeah.
And I find that a big responsibility.
You all right?
Yeah. And I think you don't think of that at the time. I don't think anyone knows how they're going to react to that. And some people are great with it. I've spoken to other people other kidney recipients, and they don't even think about it. They're like, well, I don't see it like that. It's just a spare part. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I see that too. And I think to begin with, I probably thought like that. But now as time has gone on, I think differently, and I feel like I'm living because someone else died.
Yeah. And
yeah, I find that hard to swallow some days.
So how's your journey been with your kidney?
Well, that's the other thing. It hasn't been great. I think you're only in hospital for 5 days.
Wow.
I know, it sounds like a lot.
You thought you'd be in there for weeks with something serious like that.
It's 5 days. You're out. But what happens is you go home after 5 days, but then you go to the hospital every day to get your bloods checked, and they check your kidney, because basically they need to make sure that your kidney's tracking in the right direction, and they have to look at how they monitor your medication. I mean, you're on so much medication after you have a kidney transplant. So, every day you go into hospital, and my kidney just wasn't tracking well, and it looked like it was going into rejection. So when your kidney goes into rejection, what happens is your toxin levels keep going up. So my toxins levels just kept going up and up and up, and it was like they reached about 450, which is not good.
Yeah.
So we started on all the treatments that you need to go on. So it was high levels of steroid dosages I went through, and then they changed my medication a lot, and then I ended up being admitted back into hospital for different treatments. So there was at one stage I was in hospital for about 10 days where we did this treatment called ATG, which is pretty much chemo.
Yeah.
So I was doing chemo for 6 hours a day, 4 to 6 hours a day for 7 days straight. And so you just do all these treatments, and for 6 months pretty much I've done
hammered
absolutely everything you can think of. I've lost count of treatments and surgeries and poking and prodding, and we got to the point where we just couldn't figure out why my kidney was behaving the way it was. It's not normal. I just kind of didn't fit into any regular theory. And like my doctor said to me, they're very good at dealing with rejection. Very good, because they get it so much. So, but mine didn't fit into that.
So you can sort of manage it and bring it back.
Yeah, absolutely. They're great at it. They've got all these amazing drugs now, fantastic treatments. Most people don't have to lose their kidneys. If it goes into rejection, they bring it back. And they just weren't able to do that with me. So stabilising my system was just trial and error. So we just tried everything. And to cut a long story short, what we discovered with me, which is quite weird, was that when I'm in like a when I'm laying down, so what's that, horizontal position?
Yes.
When I'm in a horizontal position, my body works quite well. My heart pumps really well. My fluids go to all the right places. And I feel quite well. When I'm vertical, when I'm sitting up or walking around standing, it just goes into haywire. It just goes very chaotic. Right. And the fluids go to my legs. They don't go to my kidneys. So my organs dry out. My heart goes all weird. It goes very low blood pressure, etc. So it's almost like if I could live my life laying down, then I would be great. But obviously I can't live like that.
John Yoko, just like wheeling around in the
bed. Exactly, right? So it's like, I need a job where I'm in bed all day. I just need to like be able to sleep. Yeah, exactly. So let's not go there. But yeah, so we've just found that there's some weird things in my body. And a couple of other weird things was most renal patients can't have salt. Salt's really bad for renal patients with regard to fluid and different things. Whereas my doctors have told me to eat salt. I'm actually on 6 salt tablets a day.
Wow.
I'm meant to eat lots of hot chips and salt and olives and stuff because my body doesn't absorb salt. And so it's just a very weird disorder that I have, which we haven't pinpointed exactly what it is. So it hasn't gone well. Like, we're hoping I'll start to stabilise soon, but it's been 6 months. And
so where are you now?
We're at the point where we've tried everything.
Yeah.
And we've sort of at the point where now we just have to be reactive. So I've suffered from quite a few infections and different things over the last few months. So we'll treat infections and illnesses as they come up. But with regards to changing my drugs or trying any other different treatments, we've hit the end of the road with that.
So what does that actually mean?
It's a wait and see mission.
Yeah. Really,
for me. I've asked my doctors so many times, does this mean that the longevity of my kidney is in danger, and will I lose my kidney? You know, what's the forecast? And we're like, we just don't know. It's unknown territory, so it could last a couple of months or it could last years. We just don't know. So for me, it's completely uncertain. But I guess most people live their lives like that.
Yes.
None of us know when our time's up, I guess.
Yeah. And with the end of the kidney, does that mean?
No. So, you know, obviously I could go back on dialysis.
Yeah.
And that would be a decision that I would look at very seriously. And I know there'll be people that will listen to this and go, of course you just go back on dialysis. But that's actually a question mark for me.
Right. Why is that?
I was really unwell on dialysis and I question the quality of life I have living on a machine, and people say, yeah, but you're still alive, be grateful. And I am so grateful to be alive, and I get quite nervous talking about this because I think people are probably going to judge me quite severely on it. But I think for me it would be a quality of life, and I don't know if living that way again is what I'd be prepared to do.
So that's the medical journey.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you more about the inner journey that's gone in that in just a sec. But just so we understand where you are now.
Yes.
What does your average sort of day, week look and feel like?
Yeah. I think there's a difference with my story and perhaps someone who's done it for quite a long time and they've probably written a self-help book or something. Do you know what I mean? They've got to the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not there yet. I'm still sort of right in amongst the battle. So my normal day has changed just in the last couple of weeks. So if you asked me this question probably 2 weeks ago, my normal day was get up at 5:30, get myself out of bed, get ready and be at the hospital by 7 o'clock for my first round of blood tests. And you have your blood tests and then you go see your specialist and you go through the blood tests and they weigh you, they look at your blood pressure, and then they look at all your bloods and go, okay, right, so your toxins are so high, okay, we're going to send you off for fluids today, or this looks bad, we're going to give you some calcium or change your medication. And this is a daily thing. You looked at where you were daily and you changed your meds and you had injections, or you did on a daily basis. It was so full on, and so you kind of, I got to the point where I was just anxious every day because I was like, oh God, what's going to happen today?
What am I going to do today?
What needle are they going to give me today, and what injection, and how sick am I today, or how much better am I today? And it was just this constant roller coaster, and that was up until 2 weeks ago. I was doing that, and then 2 weeks ago they went, that's it. We're not going to monitor you every day anymore. We don't want you coming in. We're still treating you like you've only had your surgery 2 weeks ago. You've had your surgery 6 months ago, right? We need to push harder in the sense that we're going to let you just go out there and see what happens, because we've got no more tests that we can do for you. We've got no more drugs that we can change for you. You've done everything. We're just going to have to send you out and pretty much just see what happens. So I still have to do this IVIG treatment, which is for a virus I have, and I do that every fortnight on a Friday, which is through a drip. So they're saying, we'll just see you every fortnight and let's just see how you go.
What do you do with your time now?
Well, that's the thing. You've got
a lot of time.
I'm tired a lot though. I'm exhausted. Yeah. So I don't, and I think the thing is I don't feel well. Like, I wish I just sort of bounced out of bed every morning and went, woohoo, right, what can I do? And I'm not at that point yet. I still wake up, I go, oh God, that hurts and that hurts, and okay, let's get out of bed. And I think, I went from suffering from a lot of anxiety to being in quite a deep depression, so I'm still working through my mental health side of things at the moment. So I'm trying to figure out who I am and what I do, and I think that's why my story is probably different to others, in the sense that people probably don't talk about it until they've got to that point where, look at me, I'm now a motivational speaker, or I've been through all this trauma and I've written a book, and I'm so not there. I'm still surrounded by lemons and I have no idea how to make lemonade. Yeah. So I don't know. There's only one thing I do know, is that I keep saying, how do I help? Like, that is this little phrase that I've always got in my mind, like, how do I help? Not so much myself, but how do I use this to help others? Like, how do I bring my strategic skill set that I've got, like all my corporate knowledge, and how do I bring that real business side of me together now with this new experience of this real mental health, like mental side of it's been the biggest, hardest thing for me. How do I bring these two things together and help? Help the world, I don't know, help other people, just help. How do I do that?
Be of service.
I have no idea, Bryn. And that's the thing that scares me the most. That's what keeps me up at night. I'm petrified that I've got this new kidney, I'm wasting it, that I'm failing in life, that I'm just going to become this mong in the corner not knowing what I'm doing. I literally, that is my constant fear, and I don't have the answers yet. So.
Got any inkling of the answer?
No. One of the things I've done, which has absolutely surprised me, was when I first got my surgery, I said to my family, can you take videos of me? I want to somehow capture this journey for myself, so I can look back on it and go, well done, Fee, you've come such a long way. This was a once in a lifetime thing that hopefully I'll never have to do again, is have a transplant. And I wanted to capture that somehow and diarise it. But then I also thought, oh look, if you just video record me, then I can just send it to my mates instead of having to text everyone. And but I was thinking, I've got
sufficient.
A handful of friends, right? So I was thinking, it's only a few friends I need to do this for. So anyway, I sent it to my friends and they were like, this is great. And I started doing it every day. And then I was also joined this support group, this kidney transplant support group. And I thought, why don't I just post it on their site as well? And all of a sudden this thing it went huge. Like, I just started getting all these emails and messages of support, and people telling me that because I was being so raw in my video, I was crying, I was telling them how hard it was, I was saying I'm mentally drained, physically, like I was being very real. I called it Raw and Emotional was the title of it. I just didn't hold back. And the amount of people that were contacting me saying, you're inspiring me, you're helping me through my own journey, thank you for sharing this, and all the connections I was making and the engagement I was making with these people that I wouldn't have ever connected with before. I went, there's something in this. And I don't know what that is, but that to me helped me through my journey, but I felt like I was helping other people as well through their journeys. And if I can somehow continue that, then that's what I'd like to do. But I don't know how. I don't know. Maybe people can write in and give me an idea. I don't know. But people were connecting with me for some reason, and I'd like to try to continue to do that somehow.
So tell me about this journey then. Right, because like I said, you're taking me through the medical journey.
Side.
This went to my body, and this went to my body, and this went to my body. Right, but we've gone through collapse at work. Careers in front of you, in the middle of it, in front of you. Collapse at work. All of a sudden now you have a chronic illness, which just must change everything. Then it's kind of like, okay, I can manage this with drugs and what have you, and things might start to look good, sense of autonomy again after having it taken away. I'm summarising.
Yeah.
And then poof, no, back to square one again, and then in this whole if and when of a transplant, and then highs of I got a transplant, and then no, it's not kind of working. Jesus, I'm worn out thinking about it.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Has there been noticeable stages?
Absolutely.
Because we could be here for hours now going through all of it. But
totally. Absolutely. I think I can definitely the different stages is definitely dialysis and transplant. They are two completely different physical struggles and physical challenges, but definitely mental challenges as well. And I think when I was first diagnosed, it's that real acceptance. And I remember
acceptance that this is actually happening.
This is it. Like, it's almost like pre-diagnosis and post-diagnosis. You have to come to a realization that you can never go back. You will never be that person again. And that was a huge thing for me to deal with, because I was a bit of a planner. I built my life the way I wanted my life to be. I chose not to have children. I chose the career I really wanted to do. I worked really hard at it. I put a lot of energy and effort into building the lifestyle and the life that I wanted to live in. And I loved it. Like, I loved my life. I loved my friends. I loved socialising. I loved fine dining and eating and going to theatre and sport. And I was a gym junkie. Like, I loved who I was in life and what I was about. And you always have your own hang-ups. Like, no one's perfect. You always got issues, right?
Always at work.
Yeah. But within 24 hours, for me, that was all taken away.
Yeah.
It was completely stripped away from me. Not by choice.
How'd you deal with that one?
Not very well. Not very well. I went into denial quite significantly.
Right. It's not happening.
It's not happening. I'm going to keep working 60-hour weeks. I'm going to keep drinking. I'm going to keep going out. I'm just going to pretend that I'm going to be okay. And physically, you can only do that for so long when you're that sick. And it bites you in the ass. And, I remember...
So you tried to carry on even though you'd had this diagnosis?
Totally. I was like, I don't have any kidneys. That's okay. I'm not on dialysis, so that's okay. And I fully believed I would never go on dialysis. It was like I convinced myself that I'll never have to do that. No way. I'm never going to have to live on a machine. No, that is not going to happen. So I thought, you know what? I'll just do what I've always done. Just go hard. Just push through. So I kept exercising. I kept working my ass off. I kept eating what I wanted to eat. I kept drinking. I just kept doing it.
When did the penny drop?
About a couple months in, when I was laying on the bathroom floor, so sick I couldn't even get up. Like, just so sick. So things were coming out of everywhere in my body. I was a mess, and everything hurt. Like, I literally thought, this is it. I'm just I'm not going to survive this. I remember just laying there going, things have to change. I either have to, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And I guess I wasn't ready to die. So I had to change. I had to stop and go, all right. So I stopped drinking. I stopped drinking for 3 years. I have a little drink every now and then now. But yeah, I stopped drinking. I just stopped doing hardcore exercise the way I was. I became a lot more gentler and understanding of my body. If I didn't feel like I could make it a day at work, I wouldn't go in. Like, I was never that person before.
Yeah.
I would always go to work no matter what. But I'd ring my boss and say, I can't come in today. Or I'd go in for a couple of hours and then I'd go home. And I just started living very differently and listening to my body and being forgiving on myself.
Forgiving of what?
I felt like a failure. Like, I felt very much like my body had failed me. And I was trapped in a body that I hated it. I started to hate my body. Absolutely loathed it. To the point where I'd have showers in the dark. I couldn't even look at myself. I'd get changed in the corner of my bedroom where there was no mirrors, so I couldn't even look at myself. It was pretty bad. And I lived like that for a long time. So I just felt very trapped in a body that I didn't understand anymore and that I particularly didn't like, which was dangerous because at times it meant that I wasn't very caring towards my own body. I wouldn't nourish it properly in all ways, sleeping and feeding it and just nourishing it. I just wasn't very good at that.
Even with love.
Even with love, I just did not care for my body at all.
And did that change?
No, I still struggle with that today.
Yeah.
So I still very often shower in the dark today. I still very struggle. And I have lots of scars and stuff. And it's not the scar. I don't even care about the scars. Like, I've got horrendous scars. But it's just I'm not comfortable in my own skin. I don't like what I've turned into. And I do despise my body a lot. So I feel like it's very broken and it's it took away my freedom and my choice in life. So I have serious issues with my body still today. Yeah.
So during the drug and the but generally looking after yourself phase, what was life like there? Did you feel like you got some sense of autonomy and control back into your life?
Yeah, after I sort of came out of the denial phase, I realised that there are things I can control. Because one of the big senses that you have when you're dealt with a chronic illness is loss of control. And I'm a little bit...
We love our control.
We love our control.
And I'm getting the sense you love it.
I love control. I'm a control freak, and I think that's why this hit me so hard, because all of a sudden I had no choice with certain things, and I loved travelling, and I loved, living a certain lifestyle, and that I could no longer do. So I was very restricted and very constrained, and I'm someone that will fight that. I fight rules. I don't like being told what I can't do. I'm someone like, if you say to me, you can't do that, I'm like, really? I'll do it 1,000 times harder than if you tell me I can't do something. So all of a sudden I was told, you're very sick. You can't do these things. You need to do these things. Yeah. And I was very much like...
So we have this small period of, fuck you.
Really?
I'm going to do this.
Yeah. To the point where I used to have fortnightly and monthly medical appointments that I had to go to. I didn't go. I just wouldn't turn up. To the point where, but I'd tell everyone I was. Like, my family thought I was going, but I wasn't. And they'd be like, how? I'm like, no change. I'm all good. I'm all good. No idea how bad I was. And I was dealing with the symptom. And the symptoms were absolutely debilitating. They were like, the symptoms were awful. But I was like, rather have those symptoms than almost succumb to the illness. Like, my whole thing is like, I'm not a sick person. I refuse to be a sick person.
Because that's an identity shift.
Yeah, it was a label. And I was like, I'm not going to wear this label. I'm not going to join a support group. I'm not going to go have therapy.
This is one of the things I wanted to ask you about. And I'll come back to it in a minute. So.
Yeah, so I was completely like, nah, you can shove this up your ass. I'm not going to have chronic illness. I love my life and I'm going to control it the way I want to control it. And what I learned very quickly is that sometimes if you don't dance with the system, you get slapped in the face. And it just kicked me in my ass so badly. Like, I was so sick. And to the point where my specialist, my renal specialist, wrote a letter to my family telling them how much in denial I was and how concerned she is about my health.
Right. And
that they need to kick my ass and help me get back on track because I'm in severe danger of dying. And I was like, oh. So that was a bit of a turning point for me. And that's when
Did they almost perform an intervention?
Well, yeah, I kind of controlled that as much as I could and tried to play her down. No, it's not that serious. She's just been a bit dramatic, but she wasn't. She was being very honest. And I then went, okay, get your head around this. You're sick. You can't deny it anymore. What are the things you can control?
Yeah.
And focus on that. So I could control what I put in my mouth. I could control my fluids. I could control how I nourished and looked after my body with exercise, food, water. I could control to a certain point how I viewed things and thought about things. So they were the things I started focusing on, and that really helped.
So you were gaining a sense of control.
Yeah.
And then it's taken away from you again.
Yes. So then it was now you're on dialysis. I did not deal with that very well at all.
Did that take you to some dark places?
Yeah, it did. I remember the first time I had to go on it and I was in hospital and they wheeled me into the dialysis unit, and it's such a daunting sight. So a dialysis unit in a hospital is quite scary compared to what we call a satellite clinic, because in the hospital one, people are very gravely ill in these dialysis units. So you've got a lot of people in there that are suffering from diabetes. So a lot of people that have lost their limbs, seriously ill, like some end-of-life people. So you sort of get wheeled into this space and there's just machines everywhere and foreign noises and blood everywhere. Like, it's all about blood. And they just start hooking you up to this machine and you've got no idea how's this going to feel. Is it going to hurt? Am I going to pass out? Am I going to be sick? You have no idea what's about to happen, and you have to lay there for 4 hours and with this machine doing, I don't even know what it was going to do. So I think, to begin with, you don't have a lot of understanding or knowledge. Like, no one took me through a course to go, right, you're about to go on dialysis. This is what you can expect. This is what's going to happen. This is what's about. No, you just get wheeled out of your hospital bed and they take you up to this room.
You literally move from one landscape to another landscape.
With all these, and the nurses just go, all right. So the first time I went up to this room, they wheeled me out my wheelchair and I just hung onto my wheelchair. I'm not getting out. I'm not doing it. No, you're not going to. And they're like, come on, they're trying to pull me out of this wheelchair. And I'm like hanging on for dear life going, no, just like fuck off, basically. I'm not doing this. And it was my mum. My mum was with me and she just started crying. And she was like, just do it for me. And I was like, oh, bloody hell. So, of course, I did it. And it was probably the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah. It was awful. Absolutely awful. And it doesn't hurt. Like, and I didn't feel well on it. Like, I have quite low blood pressure. So I was sort of in and out a bit. And I just had surgery. So I was a bit, drugged up and all over the place. But yeah, it's a very scary, scary experience. I think here I am being kept alive by a machine. And I think that took, for me to get my head around that was really difficult. I didn't accept it for a long time. But in saying that, I always rocked up. I always turned up. I always went. And I think because I knew I wasn't ready for the alternative, which was death. I wasn't ready to die. I wasn't happy with my situation, but I rocked up and I did it. Yeah.
So that continued?
That continued for about 8 months.
And how were you during that? You learned to deal with it? I
learned to deal. I didn't talk about it. So there was only certain people that I would talk to my dialysis thing about, but I was very closed off about it. I wouldn't let anyone come and see me there. I did it on my own. I would drive myself to the dialysis clinic and I would do it, and then I would drive myself home.
Are you in a fit state to do?
No. See, I had really low blood pressure. So you're meant to be at a certain level of blood pressure for you to be able to drive after dialysis, and I never hit it. So there was big risks of me driving, but I only lived around the corner. It was a 5-minute drive, and I think it was very selfish of me.
You're like a stubborn mule.
I am, because if I had a car accident and hurt someone else, then that's awful. I think of that now. It's awful. But yeah, I would go at 3 p.m, and I'd do the afternoon shift because I still wanted to be able to work, and you just lay there for like 4 hours, and it's not like everyone sits around and sings Kumbaya and plays cards. It's not like that.
Everyone keeps themselves to themselves.
Everyone keeps themselves to themselves, and it's like you get this sense that everyone's just there fighting for their lives, right? And it's like everyone's in their own little world of hell, and it's awful. So for me, the environment was really tough to deal with. So for me, I didn't really like to talk about it because I just wanted to blank it out as much as I could. Yeah.
You didn't go and see a counsellor, psychologist or anything during that?
Not while I was on dialysis, no, which I think back on it, I probably should have. I didn't. I just went...
Because even just listening to you, right, there's this sense of, and feeling the story, there's this sense of this enormous psychic build-up in you, which kind of help matters.
Yeah. So for me, I would cry every day. So I'd cry on my way to like dialysis, or I just got to the point where I was just always crying about things. And I guess I didn't know it was depression. I didn't know that that's what I was going through. I just thought, well, anyone who's going through this would be feeling like this and crying all the time. And I was very good at putting a mask on. So I was very good at walking into the office and going, all right, I'm here now. And I would look like death some days. Like I would just my eyes would be hanging out. I could hardly walk. Yeah, and I would be sick as a dog. And there was one guy I worked with, Lee. Oh, I love him to bits. And he'd worked with me for 3 years. So he worked with me from the time I was diagnosed to the time I was on dialysis. And now we're still friends. But I'd walk in and he'd just go, oh my God, what are you even doing here today? And I used to just start crying, going, please, I need to be here. Like, what am I going to do? Sit at home and just stare at the 4 walls and be a sick person? And I just remember always saying to him, I can't be a sick person. I can't be that person. So I just used to push myself to go to work, and the damage I think I was doing to myself, who knows?
On lots of levels.
On so many levels. Like, on a mental level, I just wasn't dealing with it at all. I wasn't talking to anyone about it. I was pushing people away. I lost a lot of friendships through it.
I was going to ask you about this.
Which is really tough. So
imagine you'd lose thinking about this interview, I'd imagine you'd lose friends because it's all too much for some.
Oh, absolutely.
But then you'd lose friendships the other way by just
pushing. Yeah, I did that a lot.
Especially listening to what you're saying.
Yeah.
About not dealing with it.
Well, no. I pushed my family away the most because I think they're the ones
you always push the ones you love the most, don't you?
But I think they're also the ones that can be the realist with you. So, like, my family...
So that's why you wouldn't want them around.
I didn't want to hear it. Like...
They... Still based in Tasmania? Or?
No, my mum moved here as well. So she moved here, poor thing. She moved here, I think, like 6 months before I was diagnosed. So she moved here. And then she's like, and then I got sick. And my sister lives here as well. So they live up north.
Yeah.
So I was lucky to have them around, but I didn't let them in. Like, because I knew they could be very real with me, and I'd lost so much weight. I was, I'd become a recluse pretty much. I was just going to work, doing dialysis, and then sleeping.
So you're just drifting through life.
I was surviving. I wasn't living.
So you didn't want to die, but you're surviving.
Yeah. It was weird. It was like I didn't want to die.
As you listen to it, yeah.
But I also didn't want to live because I didn't feel like what I had was the life I'd created and what I wanted. I didn't feel as if the life I had was my choice. And people, I know, will probably say you should just be grateful to be alive, and I am grateful to be alive. But at that point in time,
it's easy to say that.
Yeah, get on with it.
To feel it and be it and do it and have it as your inner being.
Yeah, it was painful, and I remember one time I broke down, and I remember saying to a friend of mine, I just don't remember what it's like not to live in pain. And I meant mental pain, physical pain, a lot. I said, give me a day. I'd love to just wake up and go, oh, wow, I can get out of bed. Oh, wow, look at that. I can put my feet on the ground and it doesn't hurt. Oh, wow, I can brush my hair without my arms getting sore. You know, I don't have to sit down because I've run out of breath after, like, brushing my teeth. Like, I just wanted one day where I could just do all these little things that I used to take for granted and just live a free day. And, you know, even now I think that's all I'd want, just one day of a pain-free day. And you know, I think that kind of wore me down a bit, having to live like that.
So at what point did this all get to the point where you actually had to ask for help? And we're not talking about doctors and dialysis and transplants and stuff, actual help.
Yeah, so to get on the transplant list, you have to go and see a psychologist. Now, me...
As you said earlier on.
Yes. Now, me being me, I thought, I can wing this. I can just bluff her into believing that I'm fine. So...
I can control it.
I can control the situation. And a lot of people have said to me, you look well. Like, a lot of people go, you don't look like you're sick. And that's one thing about chronic illness. You can look really well on the outside. It doesn't mean your insides are rotten and broken and you feel like crap. But, you know, I'm someone that will still put a face of makeup on, I'll do my hair and I'll dress really well because that was always really important to me to present myself well.
And I imagine there's a level of, you know, self-respect and dignity that you want to be hitting every day.
Yeah. And to me, work was, like I said, my priority. So to go to work, I have to dress and look a certain way and, you know, and present myself a certain way. So that's what I put my energy into. So I went to see this psychologist and I was like, I've got this in the bag, right? This is going to be walk in the park. I sat down and she started talking to me about, you know, how do you feel about the transplant stuff? I said, just give it to me. She's like, what? I said, look, I can't live on dialysis. Dialysis is awful. Like, no one wants to live on a life support machine. But you know what? You shouldn't be worried about me now getting a transplant because I'm going to be Bryn after you give me a transplant. You should have been worried about me when I was first diagnosed. And it's been 3 years now, so I've dealt with all that. Thinking, yeah, I can bluff her. Yeah. I'm mentally stable as. I've dealt with it all. I've gone through all the heartache and, you know, all the... you know, the ups and downs of it.
I'm hardcore.
I'm hardcore now. I'm ready to just give me the transplant. She went, all right, yeah. Anyway, so it was like an hour and a half and I was like, yeah, great. I was like, okay, good. So you're just going to sign me off and we're all good. I can go on the transplant list. She goes, no. And I was like, what? Why? Like, I was like, I told you, I said everything that I thought you'd want to hear. Like, I'm pretty good here, right? And she's like, I think we need another session. I'm like, why? She's like, I think it'd be really good for you to have another session. And I was like, but I'm going on the list, right? She goes, oh, I don't stop you from going on the list. I'm like, okay, good. Okay, so I just have to agree to another session and I can go on the list. She said, well, it doesn't really work like that. I was like, oh my God. So anyway, I went home and I really thought about it. I said, okay, so the next session, maybe I need to be a little bit more calmer. Like maybe I was a bit too ramped, you know, I was a bit amped up. So I went to the next session. She just let me have it. She goes, you're a complete control freak. And I'm so worried that you're going to have this transplant surgery and you're going to fall apart because guess what? You can't control what's going to happen. If you go into rejection or if it doesn't work or the medications you have to have, like you can't go back to how you used to live your life. Like this is going to be a new ordinary and you need to be able to be flexible and adaptable with that. And I looked at her and said, yeah, I'm good, I'm flexible, I'm adaptable. She's like, really? No, you're not. She's like, and by the way, these last 3 years, there's no way you've had it together. You became a recluse, you did this. And I was like, and it was just, all my barriers sort of came down. I had to.
That must have been brutal.
It was awful. I think I cried for like 2 hours straight with her. It was just, yeah. And
somebody had shone the light into all the dark places.
It was awful. It was almost like going, someone had finally seen through me and they knew I was a fraud. And I just felt like a fraud.
Was that liberating in one way?
Not to begin with.
Not to begin with.
No, I think I felt like I have this real thing about failing. Like I just felt like a complete failure.
Where does that come from?
I don't know. I think my whole life I've been like that. Like as a kid I was, the straight A student. I was the one that was good at sport. I was, the popular kid. Like I could just do things and I could do them well. And, you know, as you sort of get through life, becomes harder when you become an adult, right, to do things. And that's why I think, you know, I was so, you know, worked 60, 70 hours in a week in my career because I was like, I have to be good at it. I have to be the best at this.
This is becoming ingrained.
Yeah, and that's just who I was. So when, you know, you get a chronic illness, well, you know, you can't be great at a lot of things again. And I feel like I failed in my health and that somehow it was my fault. Like I was always searching, asking the doctors lots of questions like, did I do this? Is this my fault? What could I have done differently? And I had this I blamed myself for the situation I was in quite significantly.
Wow.
Yeah.
What would that have given you if you'd found something to blame yourself with?
Probably just more of a hammer to hit myself over the head with, I think. Like that whole self-hate that I have quite... Working
and being speared on by judgment rather than...
Yeah, I was really good at that. And my first doctor, actually, when I was first diagnosed, he came in and he said to me, what Chinese herbs have you been eating and what diuretics have you been on? And I'm like, sorry? I said, I'm a science girl. I don't do herbs and stuff. Like, I've never been into that stuff. He goes, I don't believe you. I'm like, well, I've done this. Is this my fault? He's like, there's something going on because basically my kidney was so dry at the time. It was dried out, but that was because my body didn't work properly. But they thought because I was skinny, they thought it was a diet thing, that I was on diuretics and that I was starving myself of fluids to stay skinny. So they thought it was actually something I'd done. And so to begin with, it was a lot about I've done this to myself. Even though I had never taken Chinese herbs and I wasn't on diuretics, it just triggered the whole I'm sick because of me. So that was something that continued over the last few years for me.
So how did you move forwards after this intense session with the psychologist prior to that?
I started seeing her weekly. She became my best friend in the end. So I had to learn to trust her and to trust that, which was very hard for me, to be honest. I had to do it regularly. So it was something that became part of my routine, was to go and sit with her and talk about my feelings and where I was at. And it became a relief because my biggest fear is judgment. So I wouldn't talk to people about how I was feeling because I was scared that they would judge me or see me as weak. Because I always wanted to be the strong person that was successful and brave and, you know, good at life. And by admitting that I was this broken, for me, was a sign of weakness. So by talking to her, all of a sudden I found this safety net, where I could be completely broken and I could cry and just say all my fears, and she wasn't actually going to judge me. And that was the first time in my life I ever felt that.
What came out from that then?
Just so much.
No, not as in, sorry, I probably worded that wrongly. Not so much what came out in terms of being able to talk about
my mental state.
I guess the phrase was, I get in the sense that you're highly strung on one side, and then all of a sudden you're highly stringing yourself, and then almost what comes out from underneath. Because I'm getting this sense that you were so tight, you had such a fixed view of who Fiona was. Yeah. You decided that. But often, many people on this podcast sit there and they say, you know, I was like this, I was like that. And I, even in my journey, I was like this, I was like that, and da-da-da. And then all of a sudden, no, you're not. And life presents something to you. You get the biscuit for the most extreme. But it's almost like, no, that's not actually who you are. This is who you are. Yeah. What did you learn that started to come up that way? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think at times, particularly with relationships, like I was just complete shit at relationships, to be honest. And that was...
This is one of the questions. Did you have a boyfriend through all of this?
Yes, I had a husband.
Right.
And yes, it was my second husband actually. But my relationships were so bad that my psychologist, who obviously just met, she likened me to like an SAS military person. She goes, the minute that something becomes redundant or not useful for you, you just cut it off. Like if I had a sore limb, she goes, you would literally just cut this thing off and go, I would rather not have a limb than deal with that. And that's
Right.
what I was like in relationships. So if someone did wrong by me in a relationship or hurt me in any way, I'm like, done. There's no coming back. I was just like ruthless and cold.
No 3 strikes, 1 strike.
Yeah, no, you're done.
Then
You're
done.
out. Like, you cheat on me once, we're done. Like, you speak to me badly, I'm never going to forgive that. Like, there's just, I was so cold and harsh. But what I realised is I was hurting myself more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And I was shutting people out and not having these deep, meaningful relationships because I just wouldn't let anyone in to see me because I didn't like who I was. And I had a lot of guilt in my life for different reasons. And so I just didn't want people to see that ugliness in me. I felt very ugly. And so I had great friends and I could socialise and I was always great with socialising and I was a, live wire and I'd go out drinking, have loads of fun, but get too close to me and I'm out of there. I'd run for the hills. So I think what she helped me do was disarm that and go, you became that person because of some things that happened in your childhood and you took on this thing of I can only depend on myself. So I became this person that said...
Did you unlock what it was in your childhood?
Did I know what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had quite a turbulent childhood with my dad. So my dad struggled with mental health quite a bit. And we went through a few different things in life from him with his businesses and his mental health. And he disappeared in my childhood, took off for quite some time. And we had to pretend that he was away on business, but he wasn't. He disappeared and
It's gone away.
He just left, yeah. And there was lots of things that we had to deal with as children where I sort of went, okay, I can't depend on anyone here. Like, I was very young learning that I couldn't depend on adults. So in my head, I always went, when I get older, I'm not going to depend on anyone. I'm just going to depend on me.
Right.
Because if I mess up...
Hence the focus on the career.
Yeah, that's on me. And so
money.
I felt career was easy, right? Go to work, do what I have to do, and I liked being the manager because people depended on me. I didn't have to depend on other people. But I was very good at collaborating and stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, I was very good at that. But I'm a closed box, right? You can't get into this. You can't hurt this because I won't let you in. So, yeah, it destroyed a lot of relationships, a lot of friendships. And what I've learned the most in this journey is that approach served me well as a child and growing up to a certain point, but that doesn't serve me well now.
Yes.
And I need to be vulnerable and I need to let people help me and I need to have loving relationships. I can't be just this cold person that would chop my own limb off because someone's hurt me. Like, I have to be much more loving and forgiving and open. And the thing is, I love my friends to bits. I have a couple of amazing friends in my life that I would do anything for. It's more the partnership relationships that
you're receiving.
The receiving of it. Yeah, I'll give love easy, but I'm not very good at
receiving it back is the hardest.
Yeah, very hard. Yeah.
So all this work's going on before, during the transplant?
Yeah, both. So I got on the transplant list and I was super, super lucky. I was only on the transplant list for 6 days, which is unheard of.
Before you got that phone call at work?
Yeah. Most people, the average wait list in Australia is 3 years to get a transplant. But our wait list in WA was very low last year. And they'd done something like 840 kidney transplants or something last year, which is a massive number. Huge. So I was super lucky. 6 days. I wasn't ready. I was like, I'm not ready for this actually. But yeah, so 6 days I was on the wait list and I got the call. And so mentally...
So this must have been like weeks after that original...
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks after
section.
it was like 2 weeks after she sort of went, I've got your number.
Yeah.
And it was like 2 weeks later I had the transplant.
Yeah.
So definitely that mental journey has been the most challenging part for me. Like, I can take a needle like anyone now. Like, I really struggled with all that. But what I've learned is, like, stitches and cuts and bruises, they all heal quite quickly. It's amazing what we can put our body through physically and how it bounces back. But for me, mentally, that's been the most challenging part. And what I learnt, though, is that it's not the physical side that will get me through this because my body's pretty broken and it's pretty messed up. It's the mental side that will actually get me to survive and get through this.
Mm.
And that's not been my strength. Definitely not.
What's it been like interacting with other chronic illness sufferers? Because I could see how, certainly listen to you, A, it's a rich source of learning and how to deal with stuff, but B, it's a club you don't necessarily want to join. You don't.
And I was always someone that went, I'm never joining a support group. I was the anti-support group. Because when I was diagnosed, my doctors and everyone was like, oh, here's all these support groups you can join. I'm like, yeah, bullshit. You'll never find me in one of those. Because I had this thing that there was this bunch of sad people all sitting around going, poor me. Oh my God, I'm so sick. Oh, I can't do anything. I can't work.
Yeah.
And that is awful. I feel so bad that is how I stereotyped people.
Yeah.
And because I was so wrong about that. And I'm now in 2 main support groups, and one's a kidney transplant support group. And these people are almost like my lifeline. They understand me, and I can share my raw feelings and thoughts with them without judgment. Majority of them, anyway, won't judge me.
Much like you started to do with the psychologist.
Exactly. Because I can say to them, oh my God, I've just had this treatment last week. It's made me feel really bad. Can anyone give me advice on how they've dealt with it? And straight away you get a lot of empathy. You're like, oh yeah, I went through that. It was awful, but this happened and this happened. Have you tried this? Or have you tried, drink this or eat this? And you're like, oh great, that's great, right? And what I've found is that these people in these support groups are so positive. And they have got so much energy and so much wisdom and so much insight, and they are fighting for their lives and their health and a lifestyle. And this is where I get most of my inspiration from, is actually from these other people in the support groups, because they get it, right? And
they live it.
They live it, and they are just so inspirational. Like what some of them have been through is just awful. You wouldn't wish it on anyone. And there is one thing I hear a lot of with chronic illness people, and they say this all the time, is like, my friends don't understand me. My family don't understand me. This was one of the things I was going to ask, Yeah. They say it all the time.
Because, look, we all say it at times, right? Chronic illness or not. You sit there and go, the world does not understand me. My girlfriend, my boyfriend, my mum, my dad, my sister, my family.
Yeah.
The world, they just don't get me. And you know what? They never will, because none of us are mind and feeling readers.
But that's the thing. And I fell into that trap too. I was like, oh, my mum doesn't understand me. I'm not going to talk to her for the next couple of weeks because she just annoys me. Because
I can't be asked to explain it.
I can't be dealing with it, And I got to the point where I became quite a recluse because I didn't want to explain it to anyone anymore. Like, they go, how are you? And you just be like, yeah, good. Because you just don't want to go through it. I can't be bothered. And then
And also, sorry to butt in, I imagine there's part of it is, you can't be asked to do all the explaining. And B, every time you tell a story, you go to the energy space.
Oh, totally. Totally. And then the other thing is, though, people will see you and they'll go, oh, you look well. And you're like, well, I want to look well. I don't want to look dead. But then you get insulted.
I've done the hair on my face and
but then you get insulted because you're like, well, I'm not well. I'm sick as a dog. So it's this
lose-lose.
And you're just like, I'm mental. I'm completely mental. And so you feel like you're just going a little bit crazy because you're like, I want to look well and I want to be better. But when people tell you look well and you seem better, you're like, that's an insult. You don't get me. You don't understand me. You don't know how much pain I'm in. Like, it's just this horrible sort of tug of war that you have internally with yourself. And then it's only been the last couple of months. I don't know what happened, but I think I was hanging out with my girlfriend who's just had a little baby. I've got 2 very, very precious best friends, and they've both recently had children. So one has got a beautiful little girl who's just over a year old, and the other one's got a beautiful little boy who's nearly 10 months now. And I've never had children, right? So I have no idea what their daily struggles are, what it feels like to be responsible for another human being, how much that weighs on you. Like, I don't know, the sleepless nights and just the struggles that they have with their relationships with their partner, with the baby. I'll never ever understand that because I'm never going to have children. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't mean I don't love them or that I don't support them or I don't want to be there for them. So I flipped that back on myself and I went, okay. So my 2 best girlfriends, I'll never understand what it's like to walk in their shoes. They'll never understand what it's like to walk in my shoes. And that doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
So I kind of got rid of this whole, like, the word understanding, we should just get rid of that.
Yeah.
It's about just supporting each other and being there for each other regardless of what you're going through. Because at the end of the day, I actually wouldn't want them to understand what I'm going through, because I would never want them to feel the pain.
Yeah, you wouldn't wish it on anyone.
I wouldn't wish it on anyone. So I don't want them to understand me. I don't want them to understand my pain. And I think that's something that perhaps us people with chronic illnesses need to get better at.
Yeah.
And not push people away and get angry at people for not understanding.
Yeah.
We need to go, we don't want them to understand us. We want them to be there for us and show us empathy and help us through our bad days. But we don't need them to understand us, because I'll never understand them either.
Yeah, I guess listening to you and reflecting further out across loads of, like, in my own experience, it's kind of, I suppose on one level, because asking for help means that you need to understand what help you actually want, and to understand what help you actually want, you actually need to understand yourself a bit better.
Yeah.
And you're in this freaking maelstrom. And often when you do want help, irrespective of whether you've got chronic illness or not, you're probably not in the best place to be able to articulate, this is exactly what I need right now.
Yeah.
And so people not understanding you is probably more a function of you not being able to articulate what help you want.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Even sitting down with my psychologist, I couldn't explain to her what I needed her to help me with. Like, I had no idea. I didn't really, like, I was suffering from anxiety a lot in the first stages of my illness. What's going to happen next? Oh my God, needles. And like every sort of treatment I had to do, I would literally be throwing up the night before. I'd be like so crippled with anxiety, like I couldn't breathe. I'd be having panic attacks. And then that switched to depression quite significantly. But I didn't realise I was going through depression. I just...
It makes sense, because now your whole future, which you used to be in control over, anxiety is fear of the future. You get that, and then when you realise there's not a lot you can do because the control's been taken out of it, then you go to helplessness and hopelessness, which is depression.
Absolutely. I just fell into this rabbit hole, and I call myself a functioning depressive, though, in the sense that I still went to work, because that was the most important thing to me, and I could still put on this mask. Some people saw through it, not a lot. Most people I could fool. And then I would go home and take the mask off, but I'd be by myself. I would just completely isolate myself. So I felt like I was fooling the world. Probably not all the time, but I gave it a good crack at just trying to wear a happy mask and bluff my way through life, and catches up with you. And so in the end, I had to ask for help. I had to reach out to my transplant team and reach out to my psychologist and say, I'm actually not coping at all. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to see the world. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't like myself. I'm showering in the dark. I don't nourish my mind or body. I don't care. And it's not that I want to die. Like I said before, I just don't really care about living. So it got to that point where I was like, if I keep going like this, then I will end up dying. So I had to put my hand up, and that was very hard for me because, like I said, mental illness is something I think we've come a long way, but there's still a lot of stigma and stuff around it, and I saw myself as being very weak for asking for help, and what I now realise, it's actually much more, it's brave and you're strong to ask for help, and it's not a weakness at all. So that was something I really had to learn through my journey.
What are some of the strange epiphanies you've had along the way?
I think that's definitely one of them. I think mental health for me is I'm very open about it now. I wasn't initially, but now I'm like, we need to scream from the hilltops about it. But the epiphany I've had about mental health is that even the word mental, I think, has such a negative connotation to it. It's almost like we should talk more around mind and body and wellness as a whole, right? Because how do you look after your mental health is almost the same as how you look after your physical health. It's how you nourish yourself through food and water and exercise.
Not connected.
Yeah, exactly. And we're a whole human being. So I think my epiphany was like, oh, okay, this is a whole system I need to look after. I've got doctors who are only looking after my medical, physical side of it, like all my renal specialists and stuff. I need to make sure that I'm also looking after my other side. I need to be accountable and be an advocate for my own body and mind. And I think that was the biggest epiphany I had, was like, I need to own this. I can't outsource this anymore. I can't just go,
ignore it, deny it.
Ignore it, deny it, or someone else will look after it for me. I have to stand up and be accountable for this and ask questions, and don't be shy to say, I'm struggling with this. I don't understand that. No, you're not going to put that in my body. Like, I became to a point where I had to learn about my illness. Like, I didn't ever want to learn about it before. Like, I just didn't. And I would just literally just put my arms out and go, do whatever you want. Like, all right, okay. Because in my mind, I had donated my body to science, and it was no longer my body. I'd just gone, do whatever you want with it. I don't care about it. It's crap. I don't want it. Have it. But what I realised is, for me to stay alive, I've got to live in this thing. Yeah. So I had to take back ownership of my body and be accountable for what I put in it, understand it, and understand the consequences of the decisions around what was happening with my body.
Yeah.
That has been huge. And that is something I'm still dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And I'm still learning every day. And I think that is something that we could all learn how to do better. And I think we sort of see mental health as something you deal with when you have a trauma.
Yes.
Or when something goes wrong, or, you know, or it's something that you're institutionalized for, or, you know, it's this massive thing in life, where it shouldn't be. It should just be like going to the gym.
Yeah.
We should be looking after our mental health on a daily basis just the way we do our physical health. And I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah.
So somehow we need to ingrain from a very young age, with children or whatever, it's like, it's all one thing. Don't look at it differently, and don't think mental health only happens when you're suicidal, or when you're institutionalised, or when something bad happens to you.
Because that's like the equivalent of only really paying attention to your body when it's right in need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why I think...
mental health at the point of suicide.
Mental health, yeah.
Way before.
Exactly, and I think, you know, Are You OK and Beyond Blue and all those organisations have done so much for mental health. And, you know, I'm very honest with, like, 14 years ago, I think I mentioned it to you, 14 years ago, my dad committed suicide. And that was a huge turning point in my life. But I never really got it. I always wanted to say that I understood why he did it, and that I choose to treat it like a cancer. So you would never get angry at someone for dying of cancer.
Yeah.
So I went, well, I can't get angry at my dad for committing suicide, because it was like a cancer of his mind, is the way I looked at it. So I was like, he had a mind disease, and he couldn't live any longer, so he died. So I sort of dealt with it that way. But I always had this guilt where I thought I wasn't enough for him to stay alive for. So why couldn't I keep him alive? Why wasn't I enough for him? I wasn't good enough. So some of my I have to be good at everything stems from that as well. So, you know, if I was better at my job, if I was a better daughter, if I was a better sister, maybe he'd still be alive. Completely irrational. I get that. Not logical at all. But that was my feelings.
But it's your logic at your time.
Exactly. Whereas now, I see it completely differently, because I had a moment, I think I mentioned this to you as well, I had a moment where I was laying on the bathroom floor and I was so sick. And I just wanted everything to stop. I wanted the pain to stop. I just wanted to sleep, and I wanted to be peaceful, because I don't sleep very well anymore, and it's awful. So I was like, I want everything to stop. And then I thought, oh wow, Dad, I get it. I completely get it. Perhaps he didn't want to die, but he wanted the pain to stop. And I got it. And I was like, that was a massive epiphany for me as well, in the sense that I don't want to live like this anymore, but I don't want to die. I just want this all to stop. And yeah, that was a big moment for me.
What sort of strategies have you developed to deal with pain? Because obviously it's a daily feature of your life.
Yeah, it's huge. As I said, I'm not at the end of my journey yet. I'm still right in amongst it. So some of this stuff I probably can't really give good advice to other people, but this is what I do. So if I've got my head in a bucket, or I'm crawling to the bathroom because I'm so sick again, I'll go, okay, so right now this is I'm hurting, this pain, I'm throwing up, or whatever I'm doing, this is really painful. But do you know what, if I get through this, probably take me a good half an hour, then half an hour after that I can have a cup of tea, and I'll go, okay, that's okay, all right, so this is hurting right now, but I'll get a cup of tea in an hour,
it'll be over,
and I can have a cup of tea. So let's just throw up and get through this. And it's same in hospital. So when I come out of a surgery or when I'm having a treatment, I always say, how long is this treatment going to take? And a lot of my treatments I'm awake for, which is awful. Anyway, that's another story. And they'll say, okay, well, this will take an hour or take an hour and a half. I'll go, okay, so it's 4:00 now. Okay, so if I get out of here, by the time I recover, I'll get back to my room. The Survivor will be on TV. Okay,
yeah,
cool. That's great.
I'll be there.
I can get to watch Survivor in a couple of hours. So do you know what? Do what you have to do. I'm okay. Think of Survivor. Yeah, well, and it sounds bizarre, but I had to literally break my days down into hours to sort of get through it. And I still do that now. That's the best thing I do. I don't try to look forward too much. I don't know what I'm doing next week, next month. I don't know. I just try and get through my days day by day and hour by hour when I need to. That's all I've got. It's not that clever, but that's all I've got.
I was interested to know how you actually mentally process it and do it.
Yeah, that's about it.
So, you mentioned earlier on that from your transplant, you started doing these videos.
Yes.
And you now share your journey quite openly and honestly on Facebook.
Yeah, I do.
And you've started doing your own little podcast with Suzanne.
Yes.
Former guest on here. Stripped.
Yeah.
Is that the next level of vulnerability?
Oh, yeah, it is. It is. The videos I'm quite comfortable with now.
Yeah.
But to be honest, if you look back, if you went to my Facebook site, you'd see there's 2 months where there's none. And that's when I was in my really dark place. I couldn't do a video. I couldn't.
Was that, put that in context to, just so I understand, medical proceedings and also in a journey proceeding?
Sure.
Given the fact you've taken us through both.
Yeah. So basically I had my transplant and it was about the 2-month mark where I should have been almost back at work. I should have been hardly going to the hospital. I was still going to the hospital daily.
Yeah.
I was doing all these treatments. I was in rejection. Nothing was working. My toxins were so high. I felt sicker than I'd ever felt in my whole life.
Have you seen a psychologist as well?
Seen a psychologist weekly, sometimes twice weekly.
Yeah. And where were you with that?
I was in a dark place. I was just absolutely dark place. She's like, you're full depression. I was complete recluse, wasn't talking to people, couldn't get out of bed. I didn't care about myself at all. This was at the point where I was like, I remember her actually saying to me, are you nourishing yourself? And I was like, no, just no. She's like, okay, are you even eating? Like, do we need to get, someone in to help you? Like, I was seeing nutritionists, psychologists. They're throwing everything at me at this point. I'd hit the lowest point. Like, I was in a dark place. And I could not see any way out. There was no light for me at the end of the tunnel. So I stopped doing my videos because I could not share that level of pain and vulnerability with anyone. I couldn't even stand to look at myself. So how could I let anyone else see me? I started wearing a cap. Like a lot of my videos, people see I have a hat on, a cap.
Yeah.
And that became my safety net. I would literally just pull this cap down. I was trying to hide my face.
Yeah.
And I'd wear the same black tracksuit pants and the same grey jumper every day. It just became, that was me trying to hide who I was. So it was a good 2 months of real full-on therapy. It was full-on therapy to try and get out of that. And I came out of it a little bit and I started doing videos a little bit, but you see they're nowhere near as consistent. I was doing a video almost every day.
Yeah.
Before that for 2 months. And then over the last 4 months since my transplant, it's quite hit and miss when I do them. So because I have been scared that people will judge me for not being grateful for my new kidney. So I'm scared that if I show people my struggles and how sad I am, that people will think you should be grateful. You got a new kidney. Like, just get on with it. Like, just get on with life. What are you doing? What's wrong with you?
Well, if it worked, you would.
Exactly. And it's not working the way it is. So I've been very scared of sharing that, to be judged. That's been having that fun, putting myself out judgment. There is judgment. It's huge. Because I feel as if I've failed this gift and I've failed the person who gave it to me, my donor. I failed them by not being able to look after his kidney. So that's been what I've been trying to go through in my therapy, is to get over this, I'm such a failure in everything I do. So that's been what I've
Where are you now with that?
I'm better. As I said, I still don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
I think there's something that my therapist has told me, like, whenever that negativity train comes through, just don't get on it.
Yes.
It sounds really simple.
No.
But that's what I'm trying to do. So I have these thoughts like, okay, I can't share that with that person because they're going to judge me. Actually, you know what? Don't get on that train. Just share it. See what happens. Like, I'm trying to be a little bit more, less controlled, more open, and leave my barriers down a little bit. So I'm doing a little bit more videos again.
Yeah.
Not as much as I used to. But this stripped concept, this podcast concept that came out with Suzanne was someone that, for some reason, I just trust without boundaries. And I was able to talk to her about what I was going through just completely open. And I felt like she would... I mean, you've met her. This woman is amazing. She just never would judge me, and I knew that, and I could feel that. So we were having these crazy conversations about losing friendships and sex and relationships and failure of, fear of failure and fear of death and fear of life. And we're having all the... And she's like, we should record these. I'm like, no way in hell. I was like...
Yeah.
What? Like, that was my first reaction. Like, why would I let anyone hear this stuff? This, like, they think I'm crazy. Like, they would completely judge me on this. She's like, Fee, but your message is so much around mental health and, from what your dad went through and what you've been through, why wouldn't you want to help other people if you can? She goes, look, people might not listen to it, but people might listen to it.
Yeah.
So we sort of started playing with it a bit, and she's like, we're the same. Like, you've been stripped of all these things in your life through your illness. And whereas she's choosing to strip back a lot of things in her life, like negativity and different friendships, and, she's lost a lot of weight and relationships and stuff. So she's like, we're doing the same thing, but from different perspectives. Yeah. So we've got the same fears and failures and fortunes, but from such different angles. Wouldn't it be cool to sort of talk about that and share these experiences with people around the same topics, but from completely different viewpoints? And I went, actually, that's not a bad idea. So that's what we're doing, and I'm going to have to be very vulnerable. I'm anxious. I'll be honest. I'm very scared about this podcast.
Well, you're doing it already on this.
I know. And Suzanne actually said this is a good test for me to see if I can actually do it. And, I think I want to share it because I think if I could help even just one person, then that's a positive, right? So we'll see. So yeah, stripped. I'm pretty excited. I am very excited about it.
Yeah.
Very anxious about it.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited.
That's the worst that can happen.
No one listens, and it's just Susan and I having a good chat. I still get a therapy session out of it.
Indeed. I wanted to ask you some sort of curiosity questions, given where you are and what you've been through. So, has there been times in this where it's difficult for me? I don't know how to put this question together. How we can be surrounded by loved ones, yet there is still a big aspect to the fact that we are alone. Mm-hmm. How have you dealt and balanced that? I mean, to be honest, listening to you, you've spent quite a lot of time on your own. Yeah. Being very much in your own. So I suppose it's more bringing the loved ones in. Yeah. But I could see also how something like this, we could spend our time being so connected to others, connected to the things that we do, careers and stuff like that we realise, boom, on one level, we are on our own and we have to be responsible for that. Yeah. And comfortable with that.
Yes, we do. I think... Does
that make sense?
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. I think early on, once I was diagnosed, I realised that I'm the one doing this. I'm the one taking all the needles. Correct. I'm the one doing all the surgeries. And no matter how much my mum or anyone would say, I'm there for you, I look at them and go, well, you can't. I used to say, well, you can't be there for me.
You can't be on the machine instead.
Because you can't do this for me. And I say, can you do this? And I think, to begin with, I was aggressive about it. I was angry about it.
Yeah.
And I took it out on people. And it was awful. It was awful the way I was, because these people are saying, we love you, we don't know how to help you. And I'd be like, well, you just can't, so get over it.
Yeah.
And basically I did. And I pushed a lot of people away. And throughout this whole journey, I've had to recalibrate myself. And I think what I'm grateful of more than anything, again, is chronic illness, is I do believe I'm a better version of myself than I was. I believe that 100%. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Because I think that if I didn't go through this, I would still be that super independent person that believed it was all on me. If I did everything myself, no one could take anything away from me. What I learned through this is that even though I was doing everything on my own, my career, you know, my health, everything I did myself, I still lost it all. It still got stripped away from me. So I was like, hang on, you can't control everything. You can't be so independent and do everything on your own that you're safeguarding yourself. I couldn't safeguard myself from this. This happened regardless. So that's what I learned. And from that, and from my therapy mainly, she's been like, let's see how you can bring people in and how you need them. Yes, they can't walk in your shoes. They can't take the pain for you. And at 2 o'clock in the morning is usually when I feel my loneliest, right? Because I'm either in a hospital bed or I'm at home, and I don't sleep a lot now because of the drugs and different things. So it's always this 2 o'clock in the morning where you're like, I can't ring anyone. Everyone's asleep. I can't watch any more TV. I can't read. And it's just this, I go into almost this panic, like, oh my God, I'm so alone. I'm so alone right now. And they're the times that I have to sort of work on myself and get through it.
Because that can be confronting, because you are actually with that person.
Yeah.
You.
I am me. This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even listening to, you know, the whole, I was busy at work, busy at this, busy at that.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed from doing this podcast is that busyness is an unseen addiction.
Oh, yeah. I loved it. I felt if I was busy...
Because it means you don't have to deal with...
I don't have to deal with anything.
What's in here.
And that's what I did with my relationships. I'd work weekends. I'd work till 8 o'clock at night. It was great. Didn't have to go home. Or if you go home, it's just a little bit of time that you have to sit there, watch a little bit of TV and go to bed, right? So you don't have to deal with anything. I was the master at that. I was brilliant at that.
Sliding through, drifting through things.
Yeah. But, you know, I had great friends I'd give time to and stuff like that. But I just... Yeah, I was just so good at just not having to deal with me.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't running away from anyone else. At the end of the day, I was trying to run away from me. And I think through this journey, I've realised that... You
have caught up with you.
I've caught up with me. And for the first time in my life, I'm dealing with me. And I've got a long way to go. And part of this beautiful friendships that I found through the support groups, which by the way, remember I said there was no way I was ever going to be part of a support group. They helped me beyond anyone, apart from one other girlfriend, helped me more for me to open up and be vulnerable and connect with people. Because I found it easy because it was on a computer, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have to sit face to face.
It's a good start.
It's a good start. And that has really helped me now reconnect a lot with other people and trust people. I remember one girlfriend I've met just over a couple of years ago, so I haven't known her my whole life or anything. And when I got sick, she said to me, I promise, Fiona, I promise you, I will be on this journey with you every step of the way. And I went, yeah, whatever. She has been on this journey with me every step of the day. She doesn't give me advice or she doesn't know what to say to me, but she rings me or texts me every day. And she's done that for the last 6 months since I've had my transplant. And I love her and thank her for that because it's just the most beautiful friendship in the world and I couldn't have done this without her. And she's been the one person I've let in and just cry on the phone with her or whatever it is. But, you know, it's having that in my life's been pretty amazing.
How's your relationship with death changed?
With death?
Yes. I bet it's something you never really thought about before.
Well, I did think about death a lot because of my dad.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So I questioned death a lot after my dad committed suicide because I was like, well, is it an option? I know it sounds weird, but it almost became an option in life.
Because a significant role model had chosen
it. My dad chose to die. And I'll never forget this. I was at the time working in Sydney and I was really struggling with my dad's death for quite a time.
Yeah.
And I remember I went into work one day and my boss said to me, you know, you're not hitting your targets like you used to. You're not performing as high as you used to. My dad had only been dead like 3 or 4 weeks at this point. And I was like, I'm not being funny, but like I've just buried my father. Like I'm not feeling very salesy at the moment, you know. Like I was in a sales role and I was like, I'm really struggling. So yeah, can you give me a bit of a leeway, a couple more weeks? And she turned to me, she goes, you know, my mother died last year. I went, yeah, I know, I'm sorry about that. She goes, but your dad chose to die. And I remember just going, what? I walked away going, I felt guilty. Oh, yeah, he did choose to die and your mother didn't. And then I went, no, fuck you. And I was like...
Sounds like for a minute you're actually entertained.
I did. I went, what a messed up thing to say. And I walked in and I said, I quit. Shove your job up your ass. That is the worst. That is the cruelest thing you could ever say to someone. I said, you need to really think about what you just said to me because that's just wrong. You've got no idea who my dad was. And yes, he committed suicide. And I haven't shied away from sharing that. But don't you dare like say something like that his death should be less painful because he chose to die. Oh, it was, crazy. So I think from that point on, my thoughts around death have been quite different and maybe a bit quirky. And you know, I don't believe in forever, like nothing's forever. Like, you know, marriage, anything. I just don't believe in forever. And I think death can come at any point in time. And I guess I'm probably not as scared as death as I once was. I kind of think, well, it's going to happen. Okay, my risk of dying is probably greater than other people because of what I've got. So, you know, I could get an infection because I've got no white blood cell count. You know, I could die probably quicker than someone who just got a cold or whatever, you know. So mine could progress quite quickly and die. So I think death is a reality for me. I think about it quite often. It sort of sits at the front of my mind. I have things I call them my death dreams, where I was sleeping. Everyone that's ever died in my life is in my dream, and we're hanging out and we're chatting and we're just doing normal things. And I wake up going, oh wow, okay, that was a bit full on. So yeah, so I think death for me is something that I'm quite accepting of it. Doesn't mean I'm not scared to die. Yeah. Of course I am, but I also don't dwell on the fact that I could die tomorrow. I think, you know, we'll see what happens.
Are you a religious person?
No. Well,
have you started to consider anything bigger than yourself?
Yeah, well, see, this is the thing. Like, I love being around spiritual people, but I grew up a Roman Catholic because of being Italian. So you go to this school and I just found it awful. Like, I don't know if you know much about Roman Catholic, but I don't want to offend anyone. But the way I found it was everything's a sin. Everything's bad. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. And you've got to confess all your sins all the time.
Judgment. And
it was complete judgment, right? So I grew up. I call it my Catholic guilt. I always feel guilty for everything. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I feel guilty. I'm feared of being judged. And I think a lot of it stems from that. Like, this is just my personal journey. That's my feeling. So I sort of threw away religion in my teenage years and went, I don't agree with any of this. This is awful. I get very anxious when I have to go into a church or anything. I do not feel comfortable with it at all. But I love being around people that are kind of spiritual in the sense that this is more than just about us, right? I do believe that it's about the greater good of the world and being kind and having morals and good ethics and stuff and good values. I fully believe in all that. I don't believe I have to worship a god to have good values and treat people kindly. I think religion to me is how you treat others. And I think that I try to be a kind person and to be the best version I can of myself. And to me, that's been a good religious person in its own right. So I guess that's how I see it. Even in my darkest moments, I haven't started to pray or anything like that. Right. That hasn't come to me. Because
that sort of leads me on to the next one in terms of, you know, you used the word stripped earlier on. You used it and also in your podcast. I find that there are moments in life when everything, all the shit just gets stripped away, and your core identity and your core beliefs are the only things that stay.
Oh, totally.
You've had that?
Oh, absolutely.
What sort of things have just stayed?
For me, it's that real kindness. It's just how do I know it sounds weird, but this sentence just keeps coming to mind. How do I help? right?
Yeah.
I'm like, if I have to go through all this pain and I have to live this way and not perhaps be who I always thought I wanted to be, I have to be this other person, then what good can come out of that?
Yeah.
And I hate all those cliche sayings, you know, something happens for a reason and, you know, just think positive and all that. I'm not good with those.
Yeah.
I'm more of a person that go, what's the action, right?
Yeah.
So being stripped down, to me, in my core, is about being, just be a good person. Like, this sucks. God, this sucks. And this hurts so much. But how can you maybe help other people about it? So what's been interesting for me is I feel, again, I used to probably be quite selfish, and I was very focused on where am I going to get in life? How can I be really good at my career?
Me.
Yeah, how can I earn more money? And how can I get that beautiful Range Rover? And I was very like that. Not that I would step on anyone's throat or anything to climb the corporate ladder. I wasn't that person, but I was very focused, and I would sacrifice other things in life to do that. So you kind of narrow in on yourself. What I found is being stripped away from everything, I'm kind of become more broader.
Yes.
I haven't narrowed
so your
in.
Focus is expanded.
It's got broader, and all of a sudden I've gone, and I think this is why I'm lost. I'm a bit like, what's the greater good here? Like, what can how can I help? Like, how can I make lemonade out of lemons? But it's not about me all of a sudden. And that's kind of different. That's very different for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden about other people, and that's why I've enjoyed doing my videos, because the people that have been saying you've inspired me, you've helped me, I'm like, oh great, that's awesome. And same as Stripped, if I can share my mental health stories and the struggles I've been through and be really real about it, and I'm not at the end of my journey yet, so I can't give good advice or anything. I can just say, hey, look, it sucks to be like this and you're not alone, perhaps, and help other people. Then that's what I want to do. So it's like the blinkers have come off. It's weird. It's all of a sudden I'm sort of looking around going, wow, this isn't about me anymore.
So often towards the end of a podcast, I start asking guests, so what's the next 3 to 5 years look like for a guest?
I don't know. And that's why I thought I'd be a really crap person for you to interview, because I'm like, I don't know. I want to be alive. I think I've realised that. And I want to try and help others somehow, which is such a cliche. I do realise that, like, a lot of people...
But it's not. The amount of people that, again, through the podcast and outside of the podcast that I meet, that get to this point, realisation, awakening, whatever you want to call it.
Enlightenment,
right? Enlightenment, expansion of perspective, just like you've just
yeah.
said. Where you realise, whoa, it is bigger than me. It's not just me. And there are others. How can I serve? And you get this natural desire to want to serve. And, you know, I've spent an amount of time looking at the different phases of life. And this... I mean, how old are you?
in my 40s.
There you go. And
Middle-aged woman.
Right. Yeah, and that's about right. That now the desire to want to serve others does switch on for us. Yeah.
And I feel proud that my management style has always been that. It's like I always believed in the reverse triangle, that I'm here for you, you don't work for me. So I feel like I have been like that in my life at work, which is a bit of a contradiction to like how I see life and what I used to try and do. But I used to be quite proud of that, was my management style. So now it's bigger than that. I don't see it as just about my career now. It's about saying, how can I bring all my skill sets together and my experience that I've had? What can I do with that? I mean, any ideas would be great, Bryn, you know?
Well, if I could be frank with you, Fiona, I'd listen back to this podcast, because I think quite a lot of your answers are you told us today.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I would have a listen to this.
This is like the best therapy session ever.
So you're going to share it with everybody.
And everyone's going to go, she's a little bit crazy.
I don't know what the listeners would say, but I would listen to this and listen to what you've said.
Right.
Because 1 minute you're saying to me, I really don't know what it is I can do and offer, and then the next minute it's like, I'm sharing these videos and then all these people are connecting and they find this inspiration and this and that and da 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 da.
Yeah.
I think you'll find you doing it.
Oh, thank you. Well,
and possibly overthinking it.
Possibly, and yeah, my doctors do say that to me. But I think I'm very scatty still, so I'm sorry to listeners and to you. This has been a little bit scatty, but as I said, I'm still in it. So yeah. I feel like I'm confused. I'm a bit all over the place. I always knew where I was going in life, right? So my last job, I had a plan to be in there for the X amount of time because I was going to be a CTO. Right, that was it. I was going to be a chief technology officer. That's where I was going, and then I became ill, and that fell away. But I always knew my next thing. This is it. I'm doing this. I'm doing this, and I was very confident in my next steps in life. Yeah. So,
and a phrase you've used frequently is, I don't know. I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. You've used it several times.
Yeah, I've got no idea.
Maybe you don't need it.
Oh, maybe.
There we go. What is Fiona grateful for?
Oh, obviously for the gifts that I've received from my deceased donor. I'm so grateful the fact that he had, the insight to want to be an organ donor and to help someone else live. And there's no words that can express my gratitude for that. Yeah. I think, so apart from that physical, having a new kidney, obviously super, super grateful for that, regardless of how sad I get or how hard it is, always grateful for that. I'm grateful for people who have loved me, and believed in me when I couldn't do it. So I lost a lot of belief in myself, and I didn't love myself at all through this journey a lot of times. And there's been some people that haven't given up on me. I'm so grateful for that. And some people did give up on me, and like I said, I lost some very close friendships through this and some close relationships, and I look back and I played a big role in that as well as them, but there's been a couple of people that have just not given up on me, and gosh, I can't express my gratitude to them enough. It's pretty amazing.
Has there been any sort of regular things that you do to try and at least ground yourself and bring it back together, or? I can't say that I've been very consistent with many things. I think depression, that does that to you a little bit. Yeah. I have been absolutely tenacious with turning up. I know that sounds bizarre, but I turn up. I don't want to go. I don't want to get that needle in me, and I don't want to be cut open today, and I don't want them to stick some prong up somewhere, and I don't want to do those things, but I turn up every time. And that's one thing that my doctors have said to me: we've never met anyone as tenacious as you. Right. And I might be crying, I might be losing my mind over it a bit, but I would turn up. And I think for me that has given me some feeling of perhaps strength, and I can look at myself and feel proud for that in the 6 months that I've been through. Like, most people, I could never explain what I've been through in 6 months. Yeah. And they'll never get it. I can look back, and for myself, I can look and go, I'm proud that I kept trying. They threw everything at me, and I got hit a lot, and I just kept getting up, and I just kept getting up. Yeah. And I think that's the only consistent thing I can say. I just kept getting up. Cool. Are there any nuggets of learning that you would just love to pass out to those who are not chronically ill?
That are not chronically ill?
Yeah. Going about their everyday life.
There's something that people say to me a lot. They're like, how can we help you? Like, how? Yeah. I want to help you. And particularly my best friend, I'll say her name, Delara, she's just an absolute angel. She said to me so many times in the last 6 months, how can I help you? And I'd say to her, live your life. Yes. Like, live with gratitude. Like, I can't live my life the way I want to right now. So you do it for me. And you do it for everyone that can't. And that's what I'd say to people that aren't living with pain every day, or that aren't, living with a chronic illness. And they're going to get down over different things. And that's fine. I'm not saying you have to always be upbeat. That's not possible.
That's not what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying that at all. And I'm just saying just live your life, because tomorrow, like me, I was struck down with a chronic illness with no warning. I didn't know that this was going to be my world. And luckily, I would say I was living my life to the fullest. I was loving life completely. And I just think get out there and do what you want to do and live your life on your terms and enjoy it, and don't let anything hold you back, because tomorrow might never come. Or tomorrow might be a very different shade that you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I also think the other thing to people is like, don't treat mental health as something that's just institutionalized, or something that is when you're crazy, or something that's bipolar, or something that's extreme. Treat your body as a whole. Like, look after your system, nourish it, your mind and your body. Because what I've learned is when you have to deal with trauma like this, you're in a much better place if you are consistently looking after your body and your mind every day.
Yes.
If you're only looking after your body, that's only 50% of it, let's say. So when you hit the trauma, you're not game fit.
Yeah.
Right? And you're going to struggle like me. Like, I got smacked down, right? Yeah. But if you're consistently looking after your body, like you go to the gym 3 times a week, then you should be doing that for your mind as well. So, I just think people that are well, do that. Like, don't wait till something bad happens, then go, okay, now how do I deal with this?
Yeah.
Because it's too late. It's way too late.
So, why did you agree to come on the podcast?
That's an interesting one, because it scared the living crap out of me, to be honest. Yeah. And I also thought, I'm just a nobody. Like, why would you want to talk to me? Like, I haven't done anything special. I haven't cured anyone or done anything. And so I thought of 2 things, actually. I thought, one, great therapy session, to be honest. The more I learn to be vulnerable and to share my story, I think personally that is better for me, and I think I'm getting better at it. 2, I kind of had this how can I help thing going on in my mind, and I thought, I don't know, maybe this might help someone in some way. So that's always a good thing, and if that's what I'm about now, then I should give it a go. And I listen to you, and I listen to some of your podcasts, and I just think it's amazing what you're doing, and you're a really interesting guy yourself, and I love telling stories. I've always been like, storytelling is such a powerful way of people helping each other and sharing experiences in life. So I think it's a fantastic concept. I love it.
Thank you. Do you think we've done the job and covered it?
I hope I haven't. Have I just rambled? Has it just been like a complete ramble, like up and down and everywhere?
No, because I've kept you on track.
Oh, good. Okay, you've done a good job. Yes, of course. I think so. I think, at the end of the day, one of the big messages, I've wanted to help other people with is mental struggle of things. Like, it's a big physical thing to go through transplant, and everyone, please be an organ donor. Only takes 30 seconds to go. You have to register, though. Don't know if people know that. But only 1 in 3 Australians are registered at the moment, so we've got a long way to go still. So I think, be a hero in death is so important. Why take your organs to the grave? There's no point in that. And how nice is it to think that something good comes out of your death? How beautiful is that? You can be a hero. Everyone can be a hero. And the other thing is that I thought you could only give your organs, right? So some people are like, I've had cancer, so I've had chemo, so I can't give my organs or anything. But that's not true, because you can give skin and tissue. So everyone can be a donor. And you can also donate your body to science. So how good's that? So, I think donorship's a huge thing. Mental health is a massive thing for me. I think the physical side of things, it's important, but not as important to me, that I wanted to share with you today. It's more around saying, you know what, we've all got struggles that we have to go through, and we need to treat our bodies and our mind more as one and look after ourselves better. And I think the more we talk about it, the better. We talk about it loads. Like, if I look back to when my dad died, when my dad committed suicide, we didn't really talk about it very much 14 years ago.
No.
It was pretty brushed under the carpet, right? And now, with Are You OK and Beyond Blue and different things, we're doing much better. But I still think there's a long way to go.
Long way to go.
Yeah, because I still, like I said, my fear is I'm going to be judged of sharing my story and just saying how sad I am at times, even though I've got a new kidney. So I still feel like that. I'm sure other people feel the same.
So if people want to find you, Fiona, where do they find you?
Oh yeah, easy. So I'm on Facebook, Fiona De Stefanis, and also if you look for Stripped Podcast, I'm on there with Susan Waldron, and that is really going to be my sort of next adventure. Like I said, two women sharing uncensored. It's completely off the cuff, like no rehearsal. Don't even know what we're going to be talking about each week. And we're just going to share our experiences with what we're going through from two different lenses. So I think, and as you know, Suzanne, she's a live wire, that one. So I think it's going to be some very great conversations. And Suzanne's very spiritual, and she's got a great depth to her, which I think I'm lacking. So I think there's going to be, it's going to be really interesting conversations, because I think she helps me be a better version of myself as well. So they can find me through that Stripped Podcast. It's exciting, and apart from that, I don't know yet. But if anyone's got any ideas, they can message me and give me an idea on what else I can do, because I'm starting to find I've got a lot of time on my hands. And I know I can't go back to what I used to do, so I have to look forward to see perhaps what I can become.
There you go. Fiona, it's been an absolute privilege to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.